Hey guys, Brent Hull Build Show in the architectural salvage yard. Okay, this is some of the secret sauce for some of my building techniques, finding old hardware, finding great tools to build with. We're gonna study them today on the Build Show. Come join me. I'm in an architectural salvage yard. I've been coming to this place for 30 years, right? It's one of the first places I found. I found my first architectural millwork book. I was talking to the owner, Ralph Watterson, and I was saying to him, hey, do you know where I can find like what would a builder have looked at in 1920? What kind of books would he have looked at for millwork? He goes, oh, here, use this book. The first book I found, started salvaging, trying to find those things. This is a place that's top secret for old house owners. If you're working on an old house, if you just bought an old house and want to know where to buy things like clawfoot tubs, right? Like light fixtures. Look at all these chandeliers, right? Some from the 40s and 50s, some of them much older than that. Bust of Elvis, right? You don't find that everywhere. There are things that you learn, and just by standing in an architectural salvage yard, you can learn things. I began to see these bathroom suites in black and pink and green and red, right? All these crazy colors, that's from the 1930s. Now, I'm in Fort Worth, we're at Old Home Supply. I would consider it one of the top architectural salvage yards I've been in. I frequent architectural salvage yards. Why? Because if I go to one in New England, right, I'm going to see a much different character of products, right, that you would see in New England, you're going to see here, right? You know, things from a federal period or things from the Georgian period, fireplaces and things like that, that aren't available here, right? They're available in an older salvage yard. So when I go to different parts of the countries, I like to go to these architectural salvage yards because they teach me about building in those areas, right? What are these for, right? These are the sconces that would go beside a mirror in an old bathroom, okay? Notice they're made out of porcelain, some with them pull chains, some with the things, but these would go on either side of your bathroom. You can't find these things anymore. Look at these plumbing fixtures, right? Just bins and bins of plumbing fixtures. There's hardware in this aisle, right? Different handle sets for the front of a building. These would be for like a commercial building. This is for a house, a little bit more decorative. This is a colonial revival, right? We begin to see all these different details. Plates and escutcheons that would go on an interior of a door. Doorknobs. I've come here and bought hundreds of doorknobs, right? Spindles. If you're trying to fix an old doorknob, sometimes you need these historic spindles, split spindles, different things like that. Anything to fix a house, there's hinges, there's brackets, all kinds of fun things that you have to have if you're working on an historic house. You have to have these products, and they're not available in many catalogs. That's why I love this kind of place. So the other things that we can find here, right? Here is a rim lock, right? Rim lock goes in the outside face of the door, and then you see the transition of hardware styles, right? And these are mortise locks, right? This would go in the inside of a house. Interior, this is an exterior one. You got the push buttons out here, all kinds of things like that, right? Lighting, right? The exterior sconce on the outside of your house. Look at these wonderful things, right? Look at the beautiful flame globe, little drop thing, kind of Beaux-Arts, little arts and crafts there. We look over here, we get to some period revival things. Notice the scale of these things too. One of the other things you learn is that sometimes lights on the outside of new houses are just ginormous, right? These have a smaller scale. And so that's part of the magic of these historic houses, is seeing some of the scale of those products and trying to figure out what's right for your house, right? Look at these bins, right? Full of knobs and pulls, right? That are decorative, that are made for your house. There's just too much here. I'm going to show you some doors and other bigger architectural things. Let's go across the street and look at that building. Okay, so now we're across the street, right? And this is kind of the door factory, right? You see blinds in here, you see shutters, you see front doors, right? That's a typical front door in a bungalow style house. You got the high bottom rail that's about 15 or 16 inches high, this open light divider. Totally typical in our area with that arts and crafts and even period revival things. You see arch top things, you see front doors, all kinds of crazy things in here, and we're just beginning, right? Here's a front door, a plank style door that would have been popular in the 1920s and 30s as a period revival style. Old screens like this. Now this screen is a Victorian screen, right? You can tell because of the turnings and things like that, but this probably dates from the 1890s. And so you're gonna see a mix of things. Look at this too here. If you're ever looking for old window glass, right? These places are awesome for finding window sash. Now these sash like this, right, that we're using in our window workshops actually is the cheapest way to buy wavy glass. As you come to a yard like this, you might pay $20 or $30 for a sash like this, but you get, you know, $100 worth of historic glass. And so if you have a project where you're trying to get things done like that, this is the best place to buy historic glass. Window weights, everything for your windows. You know, there's a bunch of screens here of different sizes and how they used to clip on with the different hardware. There's screen doors here. And look at all these window sash, right? Tons of opportunity for us to maybe find a sash in a typical size that would be great for us, but you know, no longer is working somebody else's house. Remember, I've talked about in other videos how styles change, like doors and windows change as styles go on. This 5-panel door, right, with this kind of raised panel, changes into a single panel door or a 2-panel door. And then as you look at these doors, you can actually start dating them by their thickness, right? The standard size thickness is about 1 3/8 inches, and all of a sudden you see a door that's thin, and then look what's going on with the handle, right? I've got a rim lock here on this door. So we know this is a fairly early door. Not only is it thinner, right, but I've got the old shadow lines of a rim lock here, which helps me know kind of when it was made and what was going on with it, right? All of these things are clues. I talk about sleuthing through a house and trying to figure out when a house was built, using doors and millwork terms like that and trying to figure out when was something built. Look at this, for instance, right? We know this is much later. It's solid slab, right? Open light above, might even have been a commercial door, right? But this is something that never would have been around in the 1890s because you didn't make hollow core doors, right? And that is a 1940s and 50s thing. But we begin to date and look through in here and look, how do I know that this is a contemporary French door, right? Open light door. Look how small that rail is. I was just talking about that other rail that was like 15 or 16 inches in the 20s or 30s. As it gets later in the period, that thing shrinks down. Now we're into the 2-panel doors. These big pieces of plywood separated like this, either 1 or 2 panels. Now we're in the 1920s or 30s. All of these things, guys, are chronicling how times change and chronicling how buildings and styles change. And then we can look at anything in an historic house and know how old it is based on what's in there. So a lot of things are copied historically in the new houses that copy the past. Here's a great example. These are column posts that would go on a porch, okay? Notice that they're about 6 inches wide, okay? The new ones that you get are about 4 inches wide, right? They don't have the same heft and scale. One of the reasons these things work and are so cool is because of their size and their scale, how tall they are, the amount of detail and decoration. Buying these from the past and then maybe remaking these or copying these would be a much better way, in my opinion, than trying to buy them off the shelf where they won't fit the scale and size of the house you're working on. Look at this bracket, guys, right? This is something that we would see out of the old millwork catalogs, right? They're great teaching lessons for us. One, how they built them. Notice that there's through mortise and tenon. They're holding this piece together, right? And that's pegged, okay? Notice how the turnings and the design and the style are. The scale of it, right? This is a pretty big freaking bracket, but this would have been, you know, something that maybe even on a commercial building, it's so large. But the simple practice of remaking that, right, will teach you to be a better craftsman because you're going to understand how things are put together and why that thing has lasted so long, right? Look at back here. You can find church pews and mid-century modern stuff. So here's a 1890s mantelpiece, right? How do I know that? This applied decoration, this applied detail, this kind of the way this glass is set up in this bow front. Not a super high style one, but something that's, you know, everyman kind of mantle and fireplace. Look, guys, there's so much here. We've only just skimmed the surface, and that's why I've been coming back for 30 years to this place, because inevitably I'm working on a 1920s house and I need a piece of hardware, or I'm working on a new house and I need some doors that have character, or I need columns, or I need, whatever it is I'm trying to find. The old way of building is in your yard, is in your city there, where you can go back and look at these details, look at this stuff and go, oh, that's what they used to do. Oh, that's where it used to be made, or that's how it was made. Guys, so as a builder, right, there's a resource, traditionalbuilding.com has that whole resource of architectural salvage yards. You ought to look it up, because if there's one in your neighborhood, I guarantee you, you're going to learn a lot more about the houses and the history and the style and the details of those materials that went into those historic houses, and they'll make you a better builder. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Hull Millwork, Hull Homes. A lot of behind the scenes things we're doing there. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.